Let's look at the different kinds of lists that exist in HTML. So what I'm going to do is I want to make a new HTML file, and instead of going into Sublime and opening just one file, most code editors allow you to take a folder and drag it to the code editor. So I'm going to do that, and now it's opened the whole folder in here. So I can make a new file, let's call it lists.html, and I can create it directly in my HTML elements folder. You can see it created it there for me. Most code editors also have something called snippets built in. So check the tutorials on how to create snippets. So I've got a snippet here which will put in that sort of default HTML that I need for all websites. So I'll put my title in here called lists, and now I'm ready to go. Inside of HTML, there are three kinds of lists that you can use. We have one called the unordered list, one called the ordered list, and one called the description list. And they all have different semantics. They all have different purposes. The purpose of the unordered list is to describe an element or describe things that are in a list that aren't in any very specific order. So let's take a list of planets here. So we'll go Earth, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. So we have 4 planets in our list here. Now, these aren't in really any order. They're not in the order they orbit the Earth. They're not in order by size. So it makes sense for them to go into an unordered list. The way we create an unordered list is with the UL tag. So I'm going to wrap these whole things in a UL. Now, each of these items here is a separate thing within my list. So each of them is called a list item. So I'm going to surround each of them with LI tags like this to define each of them as being an individual entry inside of the list. So I've created an unordered list. An unordered list is when the items, these 4 things inside the list, do not have some sort of specific order associated with them. Now, if you look at my HTML here, you can see that these LIs are inside of the UL. So from an indentation perspective, they should be indented like that. So you can just highlight them all and press Tab, and that should indent them all for you. So now I can look at this LI here, and I know because it's indented, that means it's inside of another element. And again, if we're looking at indentation, this UL and these pieces of text are all inside the body. So technically, all of this should be indented because it's all inside of the body. So here is our unordered list. I'll put a heading on it. And we also need an H1, don't forget. H1 lists. All right. Next up, let's do an ordered list. So let me just first put these all into headings. So we have proper real HTML here. So an unordered list looks very similar to an ordered list, but it's to define that the items inside it have a specific order. So let's go Venus, Earth, Jupiter, Saturn. So now these planets here actually have an order that's important. And the order is that they are listed in the order that they orbit Earth. Orbit the sun. So because the order of these items is important, that means that an ordered list is the element we should use now. So we'll do OL, surround the whole thing in OLs like that. Then all this stuff should be indented. And your code editor probably has a quick way to type on multiple lines like that. So I can put LIs around all of those. So now I've created an ordered list here. The items inside of this list have a definite order. It can be whatever order is important for the content. It could be alphabetical order, numerical order, order that they are in the planets, best to worst, worst to best, whatever you want. It's just that the order is important. Now down here, we have one more kind of list, and this is called a description list. A description list looks a little bit different from the elements above, and it can be used for things like definitions and describing things. Basically, you use a description list when you have a term and you have some sort of thing that describes that term. So a description list is a DL. So I'm going to start with DL like this. Now inside of here, I have two elements that I can use. The first one is DT and the second one is DD. So DT is the term and DD is the definition. So let's take an example here. Let's put Venus as the term, and then the definition could be the second planet orbiting the sun. So that would be the definition of Venus. So let's do another one here. DT, Earth, and we'll do a DD, the third planet orbiting the sun. And let's do one more. We'll do DT, Jupiter, and DD, the biggest planet in the solar system. So each of these definitions describe that term in some way. So we have some sort of word and then some sort of larger description. You'll notice that I've written the DDs immediately after the DTs. So DDs are describing the DT that's directly above them. So in fact, we could have multiple DDs for the same DT. If you think about a dictionary, you can have different definitions for the same word. So for Earth, we could have another DD here that says the planet we live on. So this description is describing the term Earth as well as this description. So DDs always go up and they describe the term above them. So this here we have two DDs that describe one DT. So a description list, again, is for when you have some sort of word or term or something like that, and then some sort of description associated with that. And we have two elements that go inside there, the DT, which is the term. That's why there's a T in it. And there's the DD, which is the description, which is why there's a D in it. So we have a term and a description. And so these are the three lists we have in HTML. We have an unordered list where the things are not in a specific order. We have an ordered list where the elements are in some order. And then we have a description list describing terms and definitions.